going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
I, Mark Mallory,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
and the Constitution.
On December 1st, Mark Mallory took the oath of office as the new mayor of the city of Cincinnati. Does Cincinnati look different from the corner windows of 8th and Plum and from the seat in the center of council chambers than it does from the West End or from the stump on the campaign trail? Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. After a year of campaigning in the trenches, talking to people about his vision of how Cincinnati can do better, Mark Mallory emerged as the choice of the voters on November the 8th. Over the next 3 weeks, he organized council, and now he has a month under his belt as mayor. I am joined at the beginning of 2006 by the mayor of Cincinnati, Mark Mallory. Mark, welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And I do want to clarify for people that we are taping early. We're actually taping 10 days before the new year, so lots of things can happen, but
Right.
because of my strange schedule, wanting to actually take some time off, we are taping a little bit early. So
There's nothing, though, that stops us from wishing people a Happy New Year today.
that's absolutely nothing. And it's a tradition to have the mayor on New Year's weekend, so this is great. Are you having fun yet?
I am having fun. This is an exciting job. You know, you get to meet a lot of people, you get to talk to a lot of people. The thing that we're finding is there's an awful lot of enthusiasm out here. There are a lot of people that really want to be a part of helping to reshape the city of Cincinnati, and they've offered their help in many, many ways. But the best thing is just the positive attitude that people have about our future and the optimism they share. So I'm really excited about that. That gives me energy, that gives us hope, that gives us real opportunity to turn the city around.
Now, it's not like you're new to the political scene. You've probably met most of those people you were just referencing. Does it make a difference, though, when suddenly you're mayor rather than just Ohio senator?
It does make a difference. The dynamics change quite a bit. The expectations change, and I think the way people relate to me has changed actually dramatically. So those things do make a difference.
How would you describe that change?
Well, it's a different kind of approach, I think, that people have toward me now, realizing that this is no longer the campaign, that I actually am going to be making decisions, some of which they will like, some they won't like, but people are accepting that. And we're just in a situation now where we're laying out sort of a framework of what I want to do, where I want to take the city, and getting people lined up to help pull that off.
What's the most surprising thing that you have found since you've been in office?
The most surprising thing, I guess, is, I've had a very, very tremendous increase, I guess I should say. There's been a tremendous increase in my profile. I can't go anywhere in this city or in northern Kentucky or even outside of the city without people recognizing me and wanting to talk about the future of the city. But I will say this, though, I've been surprised about the enthusiasm. People are really excited.
Okay. During the campaign, there was lots of talk by you and David and others in the primary about what's the best way to organize council in the future, how to get everybody on the same page, how to create a common agenda, how to get people to work together better. In your mind, looking back on what you've done since Election Day, how have you tried to implement that? How would you describe what you've done, not just what you were going to do?
Well, I thought it was very important on the campaign trail to talk about the way council and the mayor functioned in the past and talk about why that was such a problem. And I pledged to change that, to change those dynamics and to change the way the mayor worked with council so that the result would be the work that comes out of City Hall would be much greater work. So the first thing I did was got with the council members and reviewed the rules. And we talked about all of the various rules and made a whole lot of changes so that the process works a lot better now. The whole concept now is that if a single member introduces a measure and they have the support of several other members, then the idea can move along. And at any point when the idea doesn't have the support to move to the next step, it doesn't move.
One of the things, and that's all involved with something that I'm not sure everybody, unless you really pay attention to council and you attend council meetings,
Right.
is the whole tradition of by-leaves.
Right.
And you've really changed the rules on by-leaves. First off, what are by-leaves? And secondly, how have you tried to redirect that?
Well, the by-leave process was a process that allowed a single member to bring up an issue at a council meeting for discussion, and they could actually put that issue on the calendar for a vote for the next meeting. And I'm just not familiar with a process like this in any legislative body where a single member can bring up an issue that requires the entire body to vote on it. Obviously, if the majority of people in some legislative body want to bring up some issue, they can suspend the rules and do whatever they want in order to bring that issue before them. But I felt that process allowed for people to do what we call throwing grenades, bringing up divisive issues that people don't want to have to deal with, or issues that were going to divide the council and perhaps divide the city. So we got rid of that process. We got rid of the by-leave process. We went back to a standard legislative process, which requires that all issues go through the committee process, that they all be heard in committee. If the committee decides this is a good idea, the committee will vote the issue out. It will then come back to me for placement on the calendar. We'll put it on the floor of council, and at that point the council will consider it.
Was by-leaves just a tradition? Is it part of the charter? I mean, it's just something I've always known. It's always sort of been there.
You know, it's a tradition that's been around for decades. I think the original intention was that this was a way of bringing up an issue of importance to the community, not necessarily for the purpose of introducing a motion, but for the purpose of discussion, so that a member could bring up an idea or a concept and have it discussed in an open forum without making it a formal motion. But I think over the years the process was abused perhaps and led to the kinds of problems and the chaos that we had seen for so many years. Some
real problems for the city managers over the years, because through those by-leaves the administration was being asked to do lots of things in not necessarily any sort of order and without any sort of prioritization. They were just all these requests for reports for all sorts of things through the by-leaves process. This was really a nightmare, not just for other members of council, but for the administration, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think the administration had been burdened with a lot of requests for a lot of information through the by-leave process, and since we've gotten rid of that, we also put into place a rule which basically says if members of council want information from the city manager's office, they really need to get the support of 2 other members, or the support of a committee chair, or the support of the mayor. So we don't have single members, again, burdening the administration with requests that aren't necessary.
One of the other rules changes was affects how often people from the community can speak to council. Am I correct on this?
No, we did not make any change in that rule at all.
Okay.
Now, there was discussion about that, but that was absolutely not on the table. My feeling was that we would never want to limit the number of times that a person could come before council.
But that was the proposal, right?
Disruptive. Well, that was a point of discussion, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So that didn't happen.
No, that did not happen.
Do community people now still address council before the formal beginning of the session?
Yes, there's still the 1:30 sort of open session, if you will. That's the community portion of the session that allows community members to come in, bring up any issue, have their say, and have that discussion. And then we move to the formal part of the program at 2 o'clock.
That's been in the past, a particularly raucous time at council. And I have not been there since December 1, so I don't know. Has that smoothed out? Are things going better during that public session at the moment?
Well, we've had 2 meetings since we made these rule changes. The first meeting lasted 42 minutes. The second meeting lasted about a half an hour.
This is unheard of.
Well, that's what I'm being told.
I can tell you, this is unheard of.
The process really smoothed out, and the message that I'm trying to send to the general public is that we had to clean up our house first at City Hall, and we had to change the way the elected leaders there function and interact with themselves and each other and the public, and hopefully that will change the way the public interacts with council.
Part of that process in terms of changing the way things function is not just the rules, but organizing the council, committee chairs, agendas, etc. I guess the one odd thing since November 8th, really, that has surprised people is your decision not to put Dave Crowley, a Democrat, as a chair of the committee he had chaired before. And that caused some raw feelings. And in fact, on December 1st, when people were sworn in, This is what he told us. Let's take a quick look at this.
Sure.
I think that's a note of inside politics that, has a detrimental effect on how we do business here. Should have never happened.
So is it same old, same old?
Kind of looks like it.
Mark, why that decision?
Well, I campaigned for about a year and a half, talking about what was important to do at City Hall and talking about the fact that we need to elevate issues above politics. I said very clearly that I wanted to work in a nonpartisan fashion. I've been accustomed to working in a bipartisan fashion in Columbus. I think that has made me very successful in my years there. And I wanted to put into place a structure in terms of the committees that made more sense as you look at the agenda that we've laid out for the things that I feel are important, the priorities. So the committee that Dave Crowley chaired didn't exist anymore. We created an economic development committee that has a whole lot of other issues in it that are related to economic development. We created an education committee. We changed the neighborhoods committee to the vibrant neighborhoods committee to put an increased focus on the fact that we want vibrant neighborhoods. We maintained, of course, the law and public safety committee and the finance committee, and we made the rules committee a standing committee. So anytime there are rules of council that need to be reviewed, we can do that. So in restructuring the committees, I looked at who I felt would best serve as chairs of those committees in the structure that I have them. I will say this, David Crowley is a very valued member of Cincinnati City Council. I think he brings a lot to the table. His energy and his ideas and commitment around the issues of the environment, of intergovernmental affairs, labor issues, I mean, he has a wealth of knowledge. My vision is that you don't have to be a committee chair to be influential on City Council. I mean, you really don't have to be. There are an awful lot of issues that you can go out front on. There are a lot of issues that I want to present and put forward that I'm going to need members of council to work with me on, and David is certainly in that position.
I mean, I can understand all of that. I do want to say, though, that my observation is that over the past 4 years that David's been on council, he's been one of the adults and been very cooperative, and he's also a person of ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess I still find it, since only 2 members did not get chair positions, I still do find it a little bit odd. Especially, it seemed like he was really upset by it. There was no, it was the only sour chord at the early. I mean, have you got it worked out with him?
Well, yeah, David and I are working very well together. Of course, we are doing the budget process, and things are getting better. And as I said, I have a vision for Councilman Crowley that goes far beyond the issues of being a committee chair. I think he has a lot to offer the city.
Okay. You mentioned budget.
Yes.
Where are we on the budget? And I suspect you're still getting your hands around the details of the budget. Maybe all the numbers aren't there yet, but where are we on the budget?
Well, the budget, and actually by the time people see this show, the budget will have been passed, but right now the budget has been worked on at the city manager's level. I have seen it, made some adjustments to it, made my comments, and forwarded that to council. Council is reviewing the budget and in the process of voting it out. We expect it to be done on Wednesday.
Before the new year.
Before the new year, yeah, absolutely.
This is, if I'm remembering correctly, this is a midterm correction to the budget.
Right.
The city adopts 2-year budgets, and we're 1 year into that process. So this is an adjustment. This isn't starting over again.
Right. This is an adjustment budget. It's a continuation budget. And I always say this is somebody else's budget. And the reason I say that is the policy, the main policy initiatives that are in this budget were put in this budget a year ago.
Right.
So these are not my ideas or my concepts. Now we have made some small adjustments to emphasize certain things, but this is not our budget.
Just on a basic level, in terms of revenue and the budget, how is the city doing? I mean, state revenues are up across the country. How's the city doing?
Well, this is a balanced budget. We're required to do a balanced budget. The receipts from corporate taxes are up, so that revenue is up a little bit, but I want to caution people that it's not a dramatic increase in terms of the entire pot, so it's a slight increase. We have some challenges that we're facing right now with the retirement system. We need to put $9 or $10 million into the retirement system. This budget puts about half of that in. We'll put the other half in next year. We're also funding additional walking patrols as the council wanted for the summer. So that's another $1.2 million that will be in the budget for that purpose. But overall, I think we're doing well. Our bond rating is still solid, and we're in no danger of causing that to go south. And as receipts increase over the next year, which we expect, we're going to be putting even more money into the reserve fund in order to really ensure that our bond rating stays strong.
Okay, stay right there. You stay right there. After the break, we continue our discussion and look at what's coming in 2006.
We are standing here today to talk about progress, to talk about moving forward. Personally, I think that this is a real opportunity for the city and the county to continue working in a cooperative spirit to make sure that this project gets off the ground and gets off the ground right.
Welcome back. We're back with Mayor Mark Mallory of Cincinnati. It's our New Year's show, but we're taping early, just as a warning, some things can change. Mark, that was the comment you made on the day that the county had to announce that the bank's proposal, as it had been conceived back in June, had to end because the developers were not going to proceed with that, or at least one of the key developers, Bill Butler. You've done two things since you've been in office. One, you made a visit to Butch Mallory, the mayor of Covington, and you announced that you're going to meet with the mayor of Newport. I don't know if that's occurred yet or not.
Not yet.
Not aware of it. But you also were with the three commissioners on the day that a tough announcement had to be made, and everybody had to deal with that. In my mind, that's the sort of regional intergovernment cooperation that at least seems like it could be new. Tell me about both of those things, both the Mallory meeting and this. We'll talk about the banks. Let's talk about the Mallory meeting first.
Well, you know, on the campaign trail, I talked extensively about the need to reach out beyond our borders, to talk with other leaders, to talk about issues regarding regional cooperation. I think those things are really important, and I talked about breaking down those barriers that exist. So I'm taking every opportunity to talk to leaders all around this region, other mayors, and I met with Mayor Butch Mallory of Covington. We had a fantastic meeting, and I went over and I guess I made history because usually if there's a meeting between the mayor of Cincinnati and Covington, it occurs in Cincinnati, but I went to Covington and went to his office. I figure he's been mayor a lot longer than I have, so I have some information I could learn from him for sure. But the bigger issue is that we have things that we both need to be concerned about. The Brent Spence Bridge, for example, you know, reworking that bridge and trying to get the federal dollars down here and the money from the state of Kentucky and the state of Ohio to get that bridge reworked. I mean, that's a really big project. Transportation in general is something that I think we share in common. And of course, you know, marketing and economic development, those things are complementary to each other when we look at them from a regional standpoint. And that's really the message that I want to send. We have to look far beyond our borders for opportunities that will benefit us. So if we can be of assistance in bringing someone to Northern Kentucky, even if they're not coming to Cincinnati, that's still of benefit to Cincinnati.
Is Butch Mallory somebody that you've known?
No, I hadn't met him before,
okay.
So this was a real opportunity, and he gave me a nice tie, and I really like it, so I wear it a lot.
He's a very nice man.
He's a very nice man.
I can tell you that.
Yes,
yeah.
he is. He is.
It is, in a situation like that where you're meeting somebody for the first time, is there really an agenda on the table, or is it just really a chance to talk about these ideas and to get to know each other a little bit?
Well, it was really to get to know each other, and we talked in general about ideas that we have, but we did talk specifically about a few concerns that they have, one of which has to do with the suspension bridge, and we're working on that issue. When you come across a suspension bridge just before you get to the Freedom Center, there's an opportunity to turn right and to go around the Freedom Center to the right, but there's a barricade there. So everybody's forced to go around to the left, which is a longer way. They want to know why that barrier can't be taken down. That's something that we're working on.
Something to remind people of is that it's Kentucky that's responsible for the bridges.
Right.
You know, and Cincinnati, we tend to think we run everything, but it's Kentucky who is responsible
That's
for
right.
those bridges.
It's their river.
That's
we
right.
call it the Ohio River, but it's their river.
It's their river legally. Shifting to the banks.
Yes.
Big project, been a difficult project. Why did you, at what point, how did you end up at the county courthouse with the commissioners for that? Did they ask you to come over? Did you offer? How did that happen?
Well, what happened was Phil Heimlich called me and told me that one of the developers pulled out of the deal and they were going to have to announce this, and asked if I would come over. I said absolutely. My feeling was I didn't want people in this area to think that just because one developer pulled out of the biggest economic development deal in this part of the country, that somehow the bank's project wasn't going to work. It's just a matter of finding another developer, making sure that the deal is right and getting the job done. So I went over, we had the press conference, and I just wanted to look forward. I wanted to be very positive. I didn't want to talk about any failures of the past, any situations where people felt there wasn't enough cooperation. All I can work from is the relationships that I have developed with the leaders in this area, and I have a great relationship with Phil Heimlich at this point, and we have committed and pledged to work in a cooperative way between the city and the county, so I wanted to advance that.
I had Phil on a couple weeks ago and to talk about the bank specifically, and one of the questions I had was, whatever the exact details were, financial details that didn't allow it to work for Corporex, what's going to change? How do we get the banks off dead center? How do we move it forward?
Well, it's because it's such a big project, it is very complicated, and the financing for this project is complicated as well. My feeling is it's probably going to have to be done in phases so that you get one part of it started, start receiving some revenue and income from that. That will allow you the base and the foundation to work on the next phase. So the bank's project, for as large as it is not something that's going to happen, you know, in a year or 2 years. I mean, this is probably a 10-year process. It's going to take a while, but once it's done, it's going to be phenomenal in this area.
Will other organizations that had been working on the banks, the Port Authority, 3CDC, do those organizations, and then were sort of frozen out when the county went their own way and go it alone in June, do those groups need to be brought back in?
Well, the situation as I see it is that we just need to sort of start over and open up the process to whoever wants to be involved and whoever has resources to bring to the table or expertise. Again, this is such a large project that I don't think one or two individuals can do it alone.
I'm sure you saw the comments of former Mayor Arn Bortz, and which were very scathing and very basically, when I talked to Arn, basically saying, we don't have people who understand development. He's a developer. He's a former mayor. Is that somebody that you can reach out to?
Well, absolutely. I mean, anybody who understands development is somebody that we want involved in this project. What I don't want to do, though, is to dwell on the past and to talk about who doesn't have what skills. If we find that the people involved in this project don't have the skill set that we need to go out and find the people that do.
Besides the banks, what are your other priorities for 2006?
Oh, wow, I've got a lot.
Well, let's just take a couple of the top ones. We only got a couple minutes left.
Well, several of the things that I talked about on the campaign trail I still want to do. I want to bring back the public safety director. I want to reconstitute the Office of Environmental Management, and I want a fully functioning planning department. I wasn't able to do those things in this budget because this is a continuation budget. We didn't have the resources to do what I want to do. But that's something, all those three things are something I'm fully committed to and I will be doing in the next budget.
So you prepare for that during the year, because when budget cycle starts, after the summer, next fall, you can get that in the next budget.
Absolutely.
Your first
And
budget.
we have to look at office allocation and structure and people and so on.
Is finding a new city manager the top responsibility?
Absolutely.
Where are we on
that? That is
that?
a top priority. I have met with the Roberts Consulting Group. Norm Roberts out of California is the firm that I've hired to do the search. We met and talked about the criteria that I want to use in order to find a new city manager. I talked about the qualifications that I think are necessary, the skill sets, and the attitude and demeanor, because I think those things are important too. I also had him meet with the members of council to start them down the road of thinking about what they're looking for in a city manager, so that when I make a final selection and present that person to council, they'll already be somewhat familiar with the idea.
Which I want to say out loud, I think is different than the last time the process went
I think
through.
it's very different, but I think it's important to work in a more collaborative way with the council and sort of blur the lines between the mayor's office and their offices.
Mark, we're out of time this morning. Good luck in 2006. Let's extend the honeymoon as long as possible because having good feelings about the region and the city, I think, is a really nice thing right now.
Thank
and
you.
You've brought that fresh air.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good luck. You'll be back this year.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for making Local 12 Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women shaping our community for the future. Have a good week and a good year.